I've talked at length about the two-tier justice system. Through a combination of Democrat aggression and lawlessness and GOP indifference and timidity, our nation is witnessing an effort to criminalize conservatism and the truth if they run counter to a totalitarian agenda. It's a Democrat agenda that is decidedly anti-freedom, and thus it's anti-American. It's time for Americans to rebel against injustice. That's our focus in a guest-centered preamble. We're watching a blatant double standard unfold in real time. Hunter Biden putting on a publicity stunt presser instead of abiding by a lawful subpoena. The GOP has yet to apply the same standard of justice to him that has been applied to conservatives. Case in point, when the sham January 6th committee was formed, it was illegitimate. The members of the committee were selected by only one party, something that has never been done in U.S. history. But when they lawfully subpoenaed Trump advisor Peter Navarro, and he declined, he was arrested and shackled in the middle of an airport. Democrats wasted no time in wielding their power, did they? Doesn't Hunter Biden deserve that same treatment? Or does the GOP accept the Democrats' standard of leftist privilege? Joining me now to weigh in on this and a whole lot more, former Trump White House trade advisor and author of In Trump Time, a journal of America's plague years, Peter Navarro, along with former U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., and former independent counsel, Joe diGenova. Gentlemen, welcome to you both and a Merry Christmas. Peter, I want to begin with you. Unlike Hunter Biden, you were arrested and shackled for defying the sham January 6th committee subpoena. Describe how that went down for you first, and then also give your reaction as you watch the GOP and the DOJ and the FBI fail to apply the same standards to Hunter Biden.
Well, Chris, one certainly has been a long journey. In D.C., I live literally right next to the FBI building. I was a field goal kicker in high school. I literally could kick a field goal from my apartment over to the FBI. And rather than have them simply call me, as I asked them to do if they had an issue, and have me come in and surrender, which is the norm for so-called white-collar crime, they tracked me to the airport on my way to Mike Huckabee's show in Nashville and lay in wait and had 5 armed FBI agents take me down, put me in handcuffs and eventually leg irons. And it was all a show trial. I mean, it was the same thing in a way they did to Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago with the midnight raid and the automatic weapons. It's designed to intimidate. I mean, the dark underbelly of this, Chris, is that I'm already in over $500,000 on this case in legal fees. I got another probably $500,000 to go for what's going to be an appeal. Defendpeter.com, by the way, defendpeter.com if you want to help. But what's interesting about this is that juxtaposed against this, you have Hunter Biden, whose crime is I mean, he's in contempt of Congress. He's defying a congressional subpoena, and he's not a senior White House advisor as I was. I'm the first senior White House advisor ever to be charged with this alleged crime. And he's there. And the other thing I'd say about what was interesting about his kind of in-your-face press conference, that was arranged by Eric Swalwell. Now, if you folks don't know who he is, he's the Democrat who was on the Intelligence Committee who got caught sleeping with a Chinese spy. And
yeah, I know. Hey, look, Peter, let me bring Joe diGenova in here to comment on this. And I want to, and if Joe wants to talk a little bit about, Eric Swalwell, he is being accused of aiding and abetting Hunter Biden in this crime. But Joe, isn't that the dirty little secret? Is that what Democrats have been dishing out in recent years is really the opposite of justice. But just because the Democrats no longer wish to play by the rules or claim that they are somehow above the law, it seems the only people who accept that absurd stance is corrupt permanent Washington and the GOP leadership. Historically, how has the unfairness been defeated and justice restored?
Well, the only way to do it is to restore the rule of law by a new administration. And the other thing that really galls me about this is when Hunter Biden did what he did yesterday, that was all planned in advance. And make no mistake about it, the president of the United States knew about that and condoned it. Instead of going before the committee and taking the fifth, which is what he was going to do, he was never going to offer testimony. He decided not to go before the committee and take the fifth because he didn't want that reported. So he held this news conference on the Senate side of the Capitol where he defied the committee, obviously was in contempt of Congress, and then went home after issuing a series of ridiculous and untruthful statements. The House should proceed immediately to hold him in contempt because he is in contempt. And he did so, by the way, with the complicity of the president. And if they want to add some articles of impeachment, they can include that as one. And let me just say something, Chris. I am so unimpressed with the Republicans in the House of Representatives. First of all, why do you have 3 chairmen investigating one subject? This is nonsensical. You have one committee, one chairman, one spokesperson, one message. They can't even get their message together to tell what the impeachable offenses are. How about failure to faithfully execute the laws at the border for a great starter? How about illegally getting the prosecutor in Ukraine fired to protect your son? The cases are plenty and available, and they need to find a person to articulate.
What about stealing classified information since 1974 that he as senator or vice president was never entitled to have? By the way, before I get back to Peter, can you address the Swalwell issue? If Swalwell is found to have, quote unquote, aided and abetted, is he culpable here with what Hunter Biden did?
Probably not, because of congressional immunity, which they do have. But nonetheless, and of course, politically, he's invulnerable. He's just a sleaze guy that you have to sort of ignore and laugh at. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. But if his last name was Santos, the Republicans would move heaven and earth to get rid of him out of Congress. Peter, look, last night the Los Angeles Chargers got blown out by the Las Vegas Raiders. The Chargers seem to just quit. They quit on their coach. They quit on their fans. It seems this is how the GOP leadership is. Former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, had this to say about Democrats and the party he used to lead. Watch.
But when I look at the Democrats, they actually look like America. When I look at my party, we look like the most restrictive country club in America.
What do you make of GOP leaders who quit on their voters in favor of the other team, Peter?
Yeah, McCarthy ought to keep his mouth shut. He brought shame upon this country. He brought shame upon the Republican Party. He, and I always knew this, was a greasy D.C. swamp-based guy. The thing, when I was in the administration, this is a little-known episode. We had a very important bill which would have prevented the communist Chinese from investing in our metro rail systems, and they were doing that to put our rail people out of business. And McCarthy had a little slice of China in his district, and he took that out of the NDA using his power. So Kevin McCarthy, keep your friggin' mouth shut. But to your point, Chris, that the Republicans